Luke sat at the edge of the wide training field, watching the sky darken with purple clouds. It was his first month at the United Academy of Galactic Peace, a place where humans and aliens from different worlds trained together. Everything felt strange to him: alien languages, foods, even the way people greeted each other. But he kept his head down and followed the rules. He wasn't the only human there, but most students stayed with their own species. Only one alien seemed truly interested in talking to him. Her name was Alira. She came from the Valeri, a species with long, smooth fur, big glowing eyes, and soft voices. They looked a bit like cats, but walked tall and proud like humans. Alira had golden fur and bright silver eyes. She always smiled when she saw Luke. "You're always by yourself," she said, sitting next to him on the grass. "I'm just watching." Luke replied, "It's quieter out here. You humans like quiet," she said, tapping her chin. "Interesting." Luke smiled. Alira often said interesting after anything he did. It wasn't mocking, just her way of learning. She asked many questions. At first it annoyed him, but over time, he found it comforting. They trained in the same team, and Alira was quick and skilled. Her movements were light, like wind. Luke was slower, but strong and careful. They made a good pair. Instructors noticed their teamwork, but some students whispered behind their backs. Most of the time, Luke didn't care, until the lecture hall got crowded. One day, a popular guest officer came to teach about combat strategies. Students rushed to the hall early. Luke and Alira arrived just before it started, but all the seats were full. A few aliens sat on the floor, others stood by the walls. Luke started to find a place against the wall when Alira tilted her head and said softly, "I can just sit on your lap." Luke stopped. His face froze. His legs went stiff. "What?" he asked, blinking at her. "Your lap," she repeated calmly, as if saying something normal. "We don't have to stand. You are strong. I am light. It works, right?" Luke stared at her. She wasn't joking. In her culture, maybe this was normal, but to a human, it felt very personal, not something casual, not something friends did in public. It's not. I mean, in human culture, sitting on someone's lap is kind of. He searched for words, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's very close. People usually don't do that unless what?" Alira asked, genuinely confused. Luke's face turned red. "Unless they're really close, like family or something more." Alira blinked a few times. "Oh." A long pause followed. Luke wished he could shrink. Nearby students were looking, not laughing, just watching with curious eyes. He hated it. "I did not mean to make you freeze," Alira said. Voice soft. "I thought it was just a simple solution." No. Luke said quickly, "You didn't do anything wrong. I just wasn't ready for that kind of question." Alira looked at him closely. Then she nodded, as if understanding a small part of the puzzle. "Your people have very specific rules about touch and closeness." "Yeah," Luke said, trying to smile. "Interesting," she said again, this time with a tiny grin. They stood together in silence for a few seconds, then both leaned against the wall, side by side. Luke could feel the warmth from her shoulder, even without touching. It made his thoughts run in circles. After the lecture, as the students left the hall, Alira looked at him again. "If sitting on your lap is too much," she said, "maybe next time I will just stand near. Not too close." Luke laughed, finally relaxing. "That works." As they walked out into the light of the academy courtyard, the awkward moment faded a little. Alira began asking about other human customs, like why humans wore shoes indoors, or why they shook hands. Luke answered each question with a laugh and simple words. But deep inside, he kept thinking about that one sentence. She asked if she could sit on my lap, and she truly didn't understand why I froze. He didn't know if it was just a funny misunderstanding or something more, but he felt something changing, and that feeling stayed with him even when the stars came out. The next morning, Luke sat alone in the academy dining hall, pushing his food around with a fork. The room was filled with noise, different voices, different languages, but his mind was stuck on yesterday's moment. He knew Alira didn't mean anything strange by her question, but it still played in his head again and again. Then he heard soft footsteps. He looked up. Alira stood in front of him, holding a tray with glowing blue fruit and a drink that steamed with sweet scent. "May I sit here?" she asked politely. "Yeah, of course," Luke said, moving his tray aside to give her space. She sat down and looked at him carefully. "Are you still frozen from yesterday?" Luke let out a small laugh. "No, I think I've thawed." She tilted her head. "Thawed? Means I'm okay now," he said, smiling a little. Alira smiled back. "Good. I worried I broke your human rules." "No, you just surprised me. That's all," Luke replied. "But I get it now. In your culture, sitting on someone's lap is just being close. Not romantic or anything." "Yes," Alira nodded. "On my world. It shows comfort, trust. Sometimes it's just because there are no other seats." "Well," Luke said, "on Earth, it's different. When someone sits on your lap, it usually means they're really close, like emotionally close." Alira tapped her claws on the table softly. "So even friendly closeness has rules." "Yeah, kind of complicated, huh?" he said. "Very," she answered. "But interesting." After breakfast, they had combat training. The session was tough. The instructor, a sharp-voiced Zarnik officer, made them run drills for hours. Partners had to trust each other completely. Alira and Luke moved well together, even under pressure. She was quick on her feet, dodging and leaping. He was solid and steady, blocking and covering. "You two again," the officer said. "Humans and Valeri, strange mix, but efficient." Luke saw other trainees watching them. Some looked impressed, others looked curious, and a few didn't seem happy at all. Later, as they rested on the benches near the field, Alira pointed at one of the students, an older Lauren male with 3 eyes and thick red skin. "That one does not like you," she said. "Him?" Luke glanced over. "Yeah, he's made it clear." "Because of me?" she asked. Maybe because we trained together. Or maybe because we're different," Luke said. "But the Academy says all species are equal." Alira said firmly. "They say it, yeah," Luke answered. "But not everyone believes it inside." She looked down at her hands. "My people are open. We do not judge by shape or world." "I wish more were like that," Luke said quietly. Just then, a young human cadet passed by and gave Luke a strange look. Not mean, just curious. Alira noticed. "He thinks it's strange that you sit beside me." "Maybe," Luke said. "Some humans still get uncomfortable with close alien friendships. Some think it's weird." "Do you think it's weird?" she asked. Luke looked at her, surprised. "No, you're different, sure. But you're smart, kind. You listen. That's rare in any species." Her ears twitched slightly. "Thank you." The sun was low by the time they left the field. As they walked back toward their dorms, Alira suddenly stopped. "May I ask something personal?" She said. "Sure," Luke answered. "What makes humans choose closeness? Not just friendship, but a deeper?" He paused. "That's not an easy question. I guess it's about trust, feelings, comfort. Sometimes it just happens over time." Alira nodded slowly. "On my world, closeness is often shared early. We show it through contact, touch, warmth. But with humans, it seems hidden, like fire under ice." Luke smiled at her words. "Maybe humans just take time." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Alira stepped forward and gently touched his arm. "This is okay?" she asked. "Yeah," he said softly. "I want to learn more. Not just about human rules, but about you," she said. Luke looked into her silver eyes. "I'd like that." They walked the rest of the way in quiet peace. Something between them had shifted, gently, like a door opening just a little wider. And even though he still remembered the awkward moment from before, it no longer felt awkward. It felt like the beginning of something new. The next week passed quickly. Luke and Alira spent more time together in training and in the quiet corners of the academy. They shared stories about their worlds, their families, and their hopes. Luke learned how Valeri valued trust more than words. and Alira learned how humans often hid feelings behind jokes or silence. One evening, the Academy announced a surprise drill, a test of teamwork. During an emergency, the lights flickered and a loud alarm echoed through the halls. Lockdown, the announcement said. All students must proceed to nearest shelter. Luke grabbed Alira's hand as they hurried through the crowded corridors. They found a small, dimly lit shelter near the training grounds. Inside, only a few others waited. The door slid shut with a heavy thud. The air was cool and still. Outside, the sounds of rushing footsteps and alarms filled the halls. Luke and Alira sat close on a bench, their shoulders almost touching. Luke noticed how her fur shimmered softly in the low light. Looks like we're stuck here for a while, he said. Elira nodded. Yes, but this is good. Time to talk. Luke smiled nervously. You always want to talk, because talking helps understand, she said simply. They began to speak softly, careful not to disturb others. Luke told Alira about his childhood on Earth, growing up near the ocean, how he loved to watch the waves crash, and how his older brother taught him to swim. Then, his voice cracked as he spoke about the war, how his brother never returned from the last battle. Alira listened quietly. When he finished, she reached out and placed her hand gently on his. I am sorry for your loss, she whispered. Luke looked down at her hand. In human culture, holding hands was a sign of comfort or love. He didn't pull away. Instead, he squeezed her hand lightly. Thank you, he said. They sat like that for a long moment. Alira's eyes shone with quiet strength. Luke felt something he had never felt before, a calm in the middle of chaos. Another student nearby glanced at them with surprise. Luke caught the look and felt a little shy, but he didn't move. Why don't you pull away? Alira asked softly. Because you helped, he answered. It's rare to feel that, she smiled. Then I will stay close. As the hours passed, the lockdown continued. Outside, the emergency teams worked to fix a problem with the Academy's power system. Inside, Luke and Alira shared hopes and fears. Do you think humans and Valeri can be friends? Luke asked. More than friends, Alira said. We can be stronger together. Luke nodded. I hope so. Finally, after what felt like forever, the shelter door slid open. Bright lights flooded in, and students began to leave. Luke stood and stretched. Alira stood beside him, brushing fur from her face. Thank you for staying with me, Luke said quietly. Thank you for letting me, she replied. They walked out together, feeling a new connection. Over the next days, other students whispered about the pair who had stayed close during lockdown. Some were impressed, some confused, but no one could deny their teamwork had saved the day. Alira caught Luke watching her one afternoon. You look at me like I'm strange. No, he said quickly. I look at you like you're important. Her silver eyes softened. Then maybe you are not frozen anymore. Luke smiled wider. Not anymore. One evening, as the sun set in brilliant reds and golds, they trained in the field alone. Alira moved gracefully, her form a blur. Luke tried to keep up, stumbling but smiling. You are getting better, she said. Only because of you, he answered. They stopped and rested under a tall tree, breathing hard. Alira leaned on him lightly. This closeness, it feels good. Yeah, Luke agreed. Sometimes I think I was scared before. Scared. The cheers in the arena did not stop. Nate Harper stood tall, tired but victorious. The Marine with a hangover had defeated the strongest warrior of the galaxy, General Vork. The news spread quickly through every corner of the universe. After the fight, the Galactic Council called a meeting. Leaders from many species gathered to discuss what had happened. Some were surprised, some were proud, and some were thoughtful. An alien diplomat spoke first. We thought humans were weak, but now we see their strength and courage. Nate Harper showed us that heart and will can be even the greatest power. Another leader added, perhaps it is time to welcome humans as true members of the galactic community. Back on Earth, Nate returned quietly. He did not want medals or fame. He just wanted to rest. I'm just a Marine, he told his friends. I did what any human would do. But people knew better. They became a symbol, a reminder that humans could never be ignored or underestimated. Meanwhile, General Vork trained harder. He respected Nate and hoped one day to fight him again, not as enemies, but as equals. In the stars, ships and fleets talked about the battle for years. Humans were no longer the unknown weaklings. They were warriors. One day, a young human soldier asked Nate, "How did you win?" Nate smiled. "I was tired and had a hangover, but I never gave up. Sometimes that is enough." And so, the story of the Marine with a hangover became legend, a story told across planets and stars. It was a story about courage, heart, and the unexpected strength inside every human. The galaxy had learned a lesson: never judge a human by their first look inside. They carried the fire to change everything. And the stars watched quietly, waiting for the next chapter. Close. Why? She asked. Because closeness means trust, and trust can be broken. Alira's eyes were full of understanding. Then we must protect it. Luke nodded. I want to protect this. They sat quietly as the stars began to shine. Overhead. For the first time, Luke didn't feel alone in the galaxy. He had a friend. And maybe something more. The days after the lockdown were different. Luke and Alira's friendship had grown stronger. They trained together every day, shared meals, and talked about their dreams. But not everyone was happy about it. Rumors began to spread around the academy. Some students whispered about how strange it was for a human and Avalari to be so close. The academy was supposed to be a place of unity, but old fears and doubts still lived in many hearts. One afternoon, Luke walked through the training hall and overheard the cadets talking quietly. Did you see how Alira sits so close to that human? One said. It's not normal for our species. Humans don't belong with Valeri like that. The other replied. They should keep their distance. Luke's stomach twisted. He wanted to say something, but he kept walking. He felt a mix of anger and sadness. Later, he found Alira sitting alone in the garden, staring at the stars. They are talking about us, he said quietly. Alira looked at him with calm eyes. Let them talk. We know the truth, but it hurts. Luke admitted, I don't want people to think I'm weak or strange. You are not weak. Alira said firmly, you are strong enough to be yourself. It's hard, Luke whispered. Sometimes I wonder if I should just be like everyone else. Then you will lose what makes you special, Alira replied. Luke smiled faintly. You always know what to say, because I listen, she said softly. They sat together in silence, the cool night wrapping around them like a gentle shield. The next day, the academy held a ceremony to honor the best teams in recent training exercises. Luke and Alira were called to the stage. Many eyes watched them, some filled with respect, others with doubt. As they stood together, Luke felt Alira's hand brush his arm, a small gesture, but full of support. We worked hard. Alira whispered, this is our moment. When the instructors announced their names as one of the top teams, the hall erupted in applause. Some clapped loudly, others hesitated. After the ceremony, a senior Valeri cadet approached them. His name was Euron. He was tall, with dark fur and piercing eyes. I see you to have become close, Euron said. But be careful. Not everyone will accept this. Luke met Duran's gaze. We're not hiding. We just want to work together. Euron nodded slowly. That is brave, but also dangerous. Alira stepped forward. We will face what comes together. The words felt strong, like a promise. In the days that followed, Luke noticed that some students gave them more space. Some smiled when they passed by. The whispers still existed, but the respect was growing. One afternoon, while training alone, Luke injured his ankle. He tried to stand, but pain stopped him. Alira was nearby and rushed to his side. Let me help, she said gently. She carried him carefully back to the dorms. Along the way, she told stories to keep his mind off the pain. In Valeri culture, she said, we believe that care shows who we truly are. Luke looked at her. You care a lot. Because you are important, she replied. For the first time, Luke felt the weight of trust not as a burden, but as a gift. He realized that the fear he had felt before was slowly fading. He was learning to be open, to accept friendship that crossed worlds. One evening, as they sat on the dorm balcony watching twin moons rise, Alira leaned her head on Luke's shoulder. "This closeness," she said, "is a new kind of peace." Luke nodded, "And maybe it will change the galaxy." They sat quietly, knowing that the road ahead would have challenges. But now, they faced it together, stronger than before. And the galaxy was watching. The Academy announced a large training exercise that would test all the teams. The war game was meant to simulate a real battle, with each team competing to complete missions and defend their zones. It was the biggest event of the season, and everyone wanted to win. Luke and Alira were chosen to lead their mixed species squad. Their team had humans, Valeri, and a few other alien species. The pressure was high, but Luke and Alira felt ready. "We must trust each other," Alira said during the pre-game briefing. "Only together can we succeed." Luke nodded. "We've come this far. Let's finish strong." The game began with flashing lights and loud alarms. Teams moved quickly. Why? Sending messages, scouting areas, and securing points. Early on, Luke and Alira's squad faced a surprise attack from a rival team. The enemies used fast ships and advanced weapons. Many squads scattered, but Luke's team held position. "Stay close," Alira shouted. "Cover each other." Luke moved beside her, blocking attacks and guiding their team. Alira jumped and dodged, striking back with precise moves. Their teamwork was smooth, almost like they shared one mind. Other teams watched in disbelief. Some whispered, "How can a human and Valeri work so well? They are unstoppable." Another said. During one critical moment, Alira was surrounded by enemy cadets. Luke saw this and rushed to help. He shielded her from attacks. Then together, they pushed the attackers back. "That's the bond we need," Luke told their team. "Watch each other's backs." Slowly, Luke and Alira's squad gained ground, winning mission after mission. Their coordination was perfect, surprising even the instructors. At the final stage, their squad had to defend a key base against heavy assault. The rival team was fierce and skilled. "Hold the line," Alira called out. Luke stood firm, blocking shots and protecting Alira as she moved forward to disable enemy weapons. Their team followed their lead, fighting with unity and strength. When the final signal sounded, Luke's squad had won the game. The crowd cheered loudly, but more than that, they were amazed by the human and Valeri leaders. After the victory, reporters from different worlds interviewed Luke and Alira. Many asked about their unusual friendship. "How did you work so well together?" One asked. Alira smiled. "Because we trust, because we listen." Luke added, "We learn from each other, and we believe in the team." The story spread across the Academy and beyond. The friendship between the human and the Valeri became a symbol of what could be possible when species put aside their fears. Some students who once whispered doubts now came to congratulate them. Luke noticed one of the cadets who had disliked him before, nodding respectfully. "You changed some minds," Alira said quietly. "We changed them together," Luke replied. That night, they celebrated with their team. Laughter and music filled the dorms. Luke and Alira sat close, feeling the joy of success and friendship. "I'm proud of what we did," Luke said. "And I'm proud of you," Alira said softly. They looked at each other, knowing their bond was deeper than before. The galaxy was beginning to see the power of unity. And Luke and Alira were at the heart of it. After their big victory in the war games, the Academy felt different to Luke and Alira. Their friendship had become stronger, and the way others saw them was changing too. But for them, it was not about fame or praise. It was about understanding and trust. One evening, the Academy held a quiet celebration in the main hall. Students from many species gathered to share food, stories, and music. Luke and Alira sat near a large window, watching the twin moons rise. Alira looked at Luke and said softly, "I want to say something." Luke turned to her, curious. "What is it about sitting on your lap?" she began, her silver eyes shining in the moonlight. "Now I understand why you froze that day." Luke smiled, remembering the awkward moment. "Yeah, It was a surprise. For me, closeness is simple, she said. But for you, it is deeper. It means trust and feelings. It does, Luke agreed. And sometimes that can be scary. But trust is worth fear, Alira said. They sat in silence, letting the words sink in. Then Alira moved closer and leaned her head on Luke's shoulder. Luke felt the warmth and peace of her touch. It was different now, no confusion, only comfort. This is okay, she asked quietly. Yes, Luke said, placing his hand gently over hers. The moment was quiet but full of meaning. It was a promise of trust, a bond that crossed worlds. Over the next days, they spent more time learning about each other's cultures and feelings. Alira taught Luke how Valeri shared emotions through small touches and silent looks. Luke showed her how humans sometimes spoke with jokes or silence to protect their feelings. One afternoon, while studying together in the academy library, Alira suddenly reached out and took Luke's hand. This feels right, she whispered. Luke looked at their hands. It was strange but not scary anymore. He squeezed her hand softly. It does, he said. Their classmates noticed the change. Some smiled with approval, others still watched with doubt. But Luke and Alira did not care. Their bond was growing, and nothing could stop it. One day, during a difficult training session, Luke slipped and almost fell. Alira caught him quickly. I'm here, she said. Thank you, Luke replied, feeling safe. They laughed together, knowing that trust was not just words but actions. As time passed, their closeness became natural. They shared quiet moments watching stars, talked late into the night, and faced challenges side by side. Luke realized that what had once frozen him was now the strongest part of him. The fear of closeness had changed into the courage to trust. One night, as they sat on the dorm balcony, Luke looked at Alira and said, I never thought I'd feel this way. Feel what? She asked, curious. Hope, he said. Hope that we can build something better, together. Alira smiled and squeezed his hand. Then we must keep walking forward. They sat in silence, watching the galaxy stretch before them, a vast space full of unknowns, but also full of possibilities. Their story was no longer just about a human who froze when asked to sit on a lap. It was about two beings from different worlds who found trust, friendship, and maybe something more. And the galaxy was beginning to notice. News of Luke and Alira's teamwork and friendship spread far beyond the academy. Messages from different planets reached the galactic news networks. Many species watched the videos of the war games and the stories about the human and Valeri duo. Some were surprised. Some were inspired. In one famous interview, a reporter asked Alira, how did you build such trust with someone from a different world? Alira smiled softly. Trust comes from respect and understanding. It does not matter where you come from, Luke added. Sometimes, the hardest part is to open your heart, but when you do, you find strength you never knew. Their story became a symbol across the galaxy, a symbol of hope. That different species could come together, not just in battle, but in friendship and trust. Back at the academy, Luke and Alira found themselves walking through the courtyard under bright stars. The soft glow of distant planets lit the sky. Do you remember the first day we met? Luke asked. Ira laughed. When I asked to sit on your lap. Yes, Luke said, smiling. I froze. And you didn't understand why. Now, I do, Alira said gently. And now? Luke asked. Now, it would not surprise me, she said, leaning closer. They stopped walking, standing quietly beneath the stars. You taught me to be brave, Luke said. And you taught me to be patient, Alira replied. The silence between them was full of unspoken feelings. Then, Alira took Luke's hand in hers. He didn't pull away. This is more than friendship, she said softly. I know, Luke said. Heart beating fast, they looked at each other. Two souls from different worlds connected by trust and care. A gentle breeze moved through the trees, as if the galaxy itself was watching and blessing their bond. Later, they stood before the academy's leaders who asked them to share their story with new students. We want others to see that unity is possible, Luke said. That friendship can cross any distance, Alira added. Their words were met with applause, not just from humans or Valeri, but from many species. As Luke and Alira walked away, hand in hand, they knew their journey was only beginning. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges. But together, they could face anything. The girl who once asked to sit on a human's lap had become a symbol of change, and the human who once froze had found courage. Their story was no longer just about an awkward moment. It was about hope, trust, and a future where differences made them stronger. And as they looked to the stars, they knew that no matter what came next, they would face it side by side. The galaxy would never forget them.